Why, hello there. Welcome back to FBA ALLSTARS, guys. I'm bored, so you're about to suffer. Suffer you will, because this is a video. That means you get to see wherever my mouse is moving, and that's going to be terrible. But today, you know what? I was a little bit bored, and I was thinking, I like sourcing products. I like trying to come up with product ideas. I think that could be kind of fun. Why the hell not record it? People always have questions about this. They always want to know some of the criteria. They want to know how I go through sorting out what looks like a good product, how they can succeed with Amazon. I kind of want to do that. Let's do it live. Let's see what happens. This is going to be goofy. This is going to be terrifying. Thank God you can't see me right now, but this is it's a little bit nerve-wracking. So we're going to see what happens. I have not prepped any of this. This is off the goddamn cuff. We will see what we come up with. Hopefully we don't show anyone's ideas that haven't been or that have already been taken. But at the same time, you know what? Damn it anyways, it's not about the idea. It's about execution. So it's about who executes first. And let's face it, the FBA All-Stars community is not that big at this point. So I don't think there's too much of a problem. But people always have questions. They always want to know, is this a good idea? Can this work? Will this fit? And that's something that people struggle with. That's something that I struggle with. And I just want to walk through kind of a product sourcing thing of coming up with some ideas, seeing what it looks like, and hopefully helping people learn a little bit from this. God, I hope it's recording right now. So with that said, let's kind of get started. So there's two places you can get started. You can get started in Amazon by going through some of the categories, or you can get started in Jungle Scout. Well, Greg Mercer's web app is pretty good at this point. So we're going to be starting there. If you don't have it, you can get a free trial. You can get the Jungle Scout, etc. We'll be showing that. And there's links to that in the show notes here. I'll somehow put show notes to Greg's episodes. And you can also get special discounts on Jungle Scout, FBAAllstars.com/JS. But enough of that. You guys probably already have it, and it's a free trial. So you hop into members.junglescout, and this is the web app. This is where the magic happens. Product tracker, you don't want this. This is more or less worthless. I need to talk to Greg about that. The database, though, this is what we're going to be using. This is kind of where we are going to be scraping through. And what do I want to see? I want to see, been doing some searches, sports and outdoors. And here's some of the numbers that I want to be looking at. So what we're looking for is a price of $10 to $50. Why that range? Well, anything above 50 and people are starting to question, do I really want to purchase this? They think about it a little bit more. You need to sell them a little bit harder. And 10's too low. Really, you know what? I want this to be probably $15. But I think I was being a little bit conservative with what I was doing. And making $8 to $50. God, if we make $50 on a $50 sale, that would be incredible right there. We would be selling software. That would be fun. The rank, I don't really care. The sales, anywhere from 15 a day to a bajillion. And not super competitive, 0 to 200 reviews. You know, let's bump this up a little. Let's do 400 because reviews aren't as important as people seem to think they are. They help with conversions, but if you are ranking, you're going to be getting sales. We want this to be less than £2 because £2 is when you start getting into those heavier problems of fees. So anything over £1, and you're going to have inflated Amazon fees. Anything over £2, and it really gets ridiculous. And there's no way in hell I want to start out with oversize. 200 products per page. Otherwise, we're just going to crank through them, and then let's go. Because this is what really matters. So, we are in sports and outdoors. Here's the first thing, a hammock. So I've looked at hammocks. So otherwise, I would know that that's maybe a good idea, but it's not because they're expensive and they're heavy. So we're going to avoid the hammocks for now. A waterproof pouch and shoulder strap. That sounds pretty freaking straightforward. So what does that look like? That's a waterproof pouch. That's what I'm searching for if I want to buy one of these bad boys. So all departments, waterproof. Pouch isn't even popping up. Come on. Pouch. So we're searching waterproof pouch. We got to get an idea of what the competition looks like in Amazon. And we're rocking our Jungle Scout tool. I'll get out of the way. What was I thinking? She had nice abs. Okay, so we're scrolling down and you're looking at some of these prices and yeah, these suck. $8, $7, $6. I don't really want to be selling that. You're competing against something that is more or less just a nothing. And why is that? Most of these are cell phone cases, as you can see. What was this, though? This wasn't a cell phone case. This was, well, maybe it was a little bit more. It was a cell phone case. It was an all-in-one kind of deal. Wow, there's 2 of them from the same company. That's interesting. Why would they not just make that a variation? That was a poor choice on their part, in my opinion. But either way, we can check that out. See kind of what they're doing with this, because it isn't... Oh my lord, okay, yeah. They've got some variations, and from what it looks like, the market's not necessarily something we want to be getting into at this point, based off of some of these numbers. What are they selling? They're selling not that great. Yeah, next. Lights, if it's electronic, it's typically something you want to avoid initially getting started because there's going to be a little bit more that goes into it. Backgammon set, that could be great, but at the same time, it's a bit heavy. The price, this is an interesting one. We would mark down backgammon set and come back to this. USB LED lights. Those are pretty straightforward, actually. No one's going to care about these brands at all. LED reflective belt. Let's see how this is looking. Then we just refresh these Jungle Scout stats. And again, remember, these aren't actually real time. The BSRs are real time. So from that, Greg's built a database of his products and other products. And he knows kind of what these rankings go to. And then you can project out what the sales are going to be. These are not selling super well. There's a couple that are doing okay. And you know what? I'm not too keen to get started on that. Ronaldo, God, Messi's much better in my opinion, of course. And, ooh, a yoga towel. Okay, that's interesting. Taking on Ryan Moran. That would be fun. Well, we'll try a yoga towel. And all of these are just to kind of get an idea on what some of the stats look like, what you need to look for. So, for instance, here, I'll break down a little bit more of the yoga towel to see some stats on this. I don't personally do yoga, but I hear it's fun. So here we're running the stats. We're trying to see what we can see. Here you can see these are pretty good images on a lot of them. Oh, I love, these are good when you have color variations. That's something you should take note of. Color variations, if you can put multiple ones in your picture, I don't think you're necessarily breaking the rules. And it gives you more color, it gives you more size, it makes it really take up a bit more space. Now these are starting to do a little bit better. Here you see these guys are rocking like 70 sales a day, a little over 30, about 15, 16, a little over 10, a little over 10, a little over 10, 50 sales a day. That's interesting. So these guys are making some money, but a lot of these are really inexpensive if you see that. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5 guys that are over our goal of like $16 if we'd want to be somewhere around there. So this is definitely one that you'd be writing down. There's a little bit more competition on the guys that are killing it. But at the same time, if you get up here with a product, maybe you find out that your unit cost isn't too bad, you can get in here and start selling. The other thing, a lot of these, look, colors, prices will vary. So perhaps they have lower priced items that are registering here that don't necessarily show up. For instance, $9.99, but maybe they're selling more of the $20 ones. Maybe these guys are selling more of the $20 ones. So you kind of have to look into that because a lot of these stats, these estimated revenues, these will be wrong because it's taking $7.99, the lowest price point, whereas there's variations that are higher up. So this is one that I would definitely be considering. I'd be writing it down, putting it in your little spreadsheet. You can export all of the data, extract the next page, and be thinking about that. But we'll go on to the next product. I'm not super thrilled with the yoga towels, but it's interesting. A cowbell. Oh Lord, down in the South, there's way too many of these cowbells. Selling that would be absolutely hilarious. I bet you that's making some good money too. It's pretty basic. No one cares about the Cowbell brand. Let's look at it. Oh, if only I could type. And a cowbell. I don't know if any of you have been to the South. You've heard some of these bad boys in football stadiums. They're god-awful. They're banned in most because they're just so powerful. Remember the Vuvuzelas from the World Cup? Imagine that, but on like super power-ups, because you just have to kind of shake it and this thing just goes off. It's like an earthquake in your ears, and that's not necessarily something you want happening. So these guys, what are you doing? Cowbells, come on. Let's see what you got. Cowbells, okay, we're selling some of these. Wow, this is selling a little bit less than I would have expected, especially during football season. Football season will be a high. I imagine it'll be even higher as football season's starting to pick up in the beginning. Now we're slightly getting towards the end. but still, these aren't numbers that blow you away. They're not that sexy or exciting. Silhouette targets. This is something that I've looked at in the past. This is something that you can definitely make money with, and this is something that's definitely selling, because you know what? Gun fanatics love them. So splatter targets. Let's check them out. Check them out and see what they do. And now you start to get a little bit of an idea on kind of what I'm looking for. Wow, is that a gangster Santa? That is kind of cool. A gangster Santa splatter target. If someone has the time and money to make that, I think you could do pretty well. That's not actually Santa, but you could be blowing him away on Christmas Eve. If you get that in by then, that'll be fun. Splatter targets. So here you can see some of the average sales rank data, the prices. And of course, all this stuff is picking up. This is fourth quarter, at least when we're recording this now. Today is December 9th, for anyone who's curious, interested, etc. We're almost to Christmas, and it's exciting. Unfortunately, there's not going to be snow down here in Georgia. But look at this, 200 reviews. This guy's doing $20,000 a month in revenue. 1,000 reviews, he's doing $60K in revenue. Some of these are making big money. These are a lot of FBA sellers as well. That's something else that you want to be looking for. If you're using Jungle Scout, which I would recommend for checking some of this stuff out, you can see who is selling this. If they're all Amazon sellers, AMZ, that means typically that there's not as much money to be made. A lot of times people will find what's profitable. So here with splatter targets, these are all FBA sellers. That's kind of a green light that says definitely look into this. So I would be throwing up buying requests on Alibaba and trying to find out what the unit cost is going to be to get some of these, because they're splatter targets. No one really cares what brand they are or who's selling them. As long as they can get what they want, they can have some fun at the shooting range. So this one looks pretty good. It's not super competitive reviews wise. They're having some nice sales on a couple of these products. Be interested to figure out why Splatterburst is crushing it so much more than the competition, when some of these other ones like Glow Shot, they might be ranking highly but not getting quite as many sales. That's one thing that I would be curious about. I'd be looking at some of the camel stats to see how they're doing. Actually, we'll do that right now. I don't have any of that open, any of that prepped, but that's not a problem. So camel, what can we do with this? Give me this bad boy. And here you can just pull the URL. You can put it into camel. And, very quickly find out how long these guys have been selling. You can see if they're doing a promotion by having a very short selling span, as in they've just launched the product and their BSR is blasted through the roof. That means they're probably doing a promo. Here, what can we see? Yeah, so these guys have been selling, they've been selling well over a year. This is their price point, and they've kept it around $30 most of the time. And it looks like, they've been selling very well for a very, very long time. So if you see their yearly average, it's probably somewhere right around here, below 500, around 500. In the sports and outdoors, they're killing it. So that's kind of an exciting one. That's something I would want to check out. That's something that we will go on to the next one, but that's definitely, I would be marking that off. Foam rollers, 13 inches by 6 inches. It's small enough so that it's not quite oversized. Otherwise, that would be quite a problem. Foam rollers, those are always fun. I never really got that much use out of them, and as somebody who goes to the gym, I couldn't really enjoy foam rolling. It never quite did it for me. Foam rolling, stretching, I'd rather just warm up and hit the weights. But either way, let's see. Plenty of people probably like these, especially if there's an Amazon Basics brand, because Amazon sells the stuff that Walmart sells. They sell it good. That's why we're making money with Amazon currently. And that's the holy shit reason. These are selling quite a bit. So this is very competitive from the looks of it. They have several that are under 500 in the rank. So they're doing like 70 a day, 80 a day, 90 a day. Man, these guys are crushing it. But see, they're Amazon brands. So what does that mean? Typically, FBA sellers are the guys like us, you and me, the FBA All-Star, the people that are making money. They want to build their own business. Amazon's typically a bigger business or straight through Amazon, where Amazon becomes the vendor. They buy from whoever the manufacturer brand is. They buy wholesale and then they sell it themselves. And I have some clients that are doing this now. It creates some problems, but it's still definitely a very valuable option. But there are some other FBA guys and they're doing well as well. So foam rollers, that's something I'd be checking out. You see these average sales. I mean, if you're selling an average of 30 something a day, that's not too bad. And who knows what the unit cost is. it'd be worth checking it out. So there's something else with that on our list. Foam rollers. Balls. Yeah, nope, not selling them. Why? Because it's enormous. Well, maybe it's not inflated though, so that would be interesting. Pavandeep products. That sounds like an Indian brand. Well, I guess, yeah, these don't necessarily have to be inflated. So a stability ball. That's another interesting thing. It's another sports brand that people don't really care about. It's not one of the sports products where you want Nike, Adidas, Reebok, etc. People don't really care. So that's something that means, oh shoot. That's something that means, this might just work. So if it might just work, then it might just work for you. So again, that's why we're checking them out. Game. This is one of the bigger brands right here. And you can get these special sponsored promotion things. We can talk about those in a later episode. So here you can see some of the guys that are crushing it on this. And it probably would have been good if I had been exporting some of the CSV data, like you can see here, so that you can review this at a later time. But as we said, I would have been making an Excel spreadsheet where I was putting in some of the real important information. The average sales rank, the average price, average numbers of reviews, and then maybe the number of FBA sellers. That's something else I list as well, because it's important to note how many people you're going up against who have had some kind of training and selling. They know what they're doing. They're the people that are really going to be doing well with this. Whereas the Amazon ones, they won't necessarily be optimized listing. They won't necessarily have all the good stuff in it. So as you look over the numbers here a little bit, you can see a lot of the data isn't coming in for who is actually the seller of this. But at the same time, these are selling pretty well for the top guys, but they're consuming most of the market. If you look at this, the top 6 guys are taking up almost everything. That's not necessarily a problem, as the reviews aren't too bad to get up here. And it also means, though, so Game, they're taking up 2 of the top 3 spots, and that's a major brand. No idea how you pronounce it. Game. I don't know. It sounds something like that, I imagine. And they're yogis, so I imagine there's some special way of pronouncing it. But they seem to buy the product in droves, so worth checking out. Maybe you can get that for a good price. Maybe if it's uninflated, you can get this and get it all shipped out. You can see some of these guys, they're doing some stuff, throwing in extra padding, extra bands, that would appear to be a pump, to try to make their listing a little bit better, to raise the price a bit, to raise the price point, get better margins. All of those are really important things. Oh, the stocking. God, I hate the Patriots. I'm a Bills fan personally. And that's the absolute worst, because the Bills are like the worst team in the NFL. 4 straight Super Bowls, we lost them. Hey, here's some more splatter burst targets. Obviously something worth checking out. Boxers. Oh, I bought some boxers when I got back to the States. Traveling, you really go through your clothes fast. And it looks like these guys are doing well. They're playing off of the Under Armour brand, 2 Under. I like it. And that's not necessarily something I want to be selling, because screw it. Let's look at some of the stats. So swing shift boxers, no idea what that means, but then you're going to be competing on boxers. You're going to be competing with a lot of the really big brands. You're going to be competing with Hanes. You're going to be competing with Fruit of the Loom. All of these other guys I imagine we're about to see on this boxer search. So some things like that, they might be a little bit more brand focused. Maybe not. Hanes. Yeah, you see, some of these things, Hanes seems to have a pretty good job locking down to just about, Calvin Klein. That's not a big brand by any means. So see, this is not necessarily something I want to be getting into. I would be jumping right back here, and I would be straight up passing this right off the bat. Socks, maybe compression socks. Camis, that could be interesting. A lot of these are things that girls will buy for, they'll buy for everyday use, but they're not necessarily something that's going to be really brand focused. A cami, what would we call this? We'll just call it a cami. I'm pretty sure that's the search term. If only my internet would work. Cami or camisole? I don't know. Camisole's a kind of long word. We'll stick with cami. I think that's the slang I seem to hear with most people these days. There we go. And this is something where you'd be working with some kind of factory that can produce clothing. That may make it a little bit more challenging, and that it will be a bit more design focused. Maybe your samples won't come out quite how you were expecting. But if you're doing something simple, pretty basic and one-off color, you're probably not going to have a problem with that. So it might be worth doing, especially if you're a girl, if you're into clothes and fashion, it could be fun to have a brand that's built around what you love, where you're the ideal customer. Maybe camis is just the thing to do it. That said, the prices on these kind of suck. So maybe not. But again, this is because of the different styles and variations, add-ons, etc. For instance, we'll jump into Beverly Rock. Oh, wowza, that's a pack of 12 for who knows how much money? A pack of 6. Oh. That's a lot of different packs. They should have had different models for some of these, I think. That makes it a little bit creepy. I don't know how much this is actually costing. This is really interesting. Let's buy a large. How much is a large? Ah, there we go, $21. And you can see the pricing is going to be based off of the size. One of the problems that you're going to have with fashion clothes, with anything along those lines, you're going to have small, medium, large, maybe different colors. Then you have different variations. You have different products that you need to keep in stock. So I have to have, I don't know, maybe 1,000 smalls, 1,000 mediums, 1,000 larges. It blows the hell out of your minimum order quantities by making you order more, making you spend more money. Cash flow nightmares. That's one thing to consider when you're looking at some of the fashion products. And let's find one other product before we call it a day. An exercise TheraBand. Yeah, we're going to do this because this is one of the overhyped ones. So we'll just go with TheraBand. And anything that's elastic, anything that's kind of a stretchy sports related product. These are going to be selling like crazy. They're also going to be very, very competitive because they're so easy to get into. If you can see, they're just basically a rubber band with logos put on top of them. So, for instance, we're running through some of these stats here. The prices aren't super competitive, and that's what happens when you get into a very they're not very good. That's what happens when you get into a more competitive market where there's less customization involved. As you can see, a lot of these are just resistance bands. Okay, some of these are a bit different. I did look at resistance bands in the past, and I think it's an interesting market, but at the same time, you're basically putting your logo just on the same product, and you'll see tons of the same products and people selling them. So here's a couple guys that are doing a ton and then not a lot of sales. It looks like resistance bands does better than TheraBand. Perhaps there's not as many people with physical therapist backgrounds that are searching for this. Oh shoot, what did I do? Resistance band. And again, none of this is choreographed. None of this is all off the cuff, guys. So hopefully this is helpful for at least somebody. Hopefully it hasn't been too long of a video. Hopefully you're finding some of what I like to look into. I mean, these aren't necessarily going to be the best product ideas. Why? We just made a freaking video about them. So there might be a person or two who decide to try that out. But this is just kind of the concept, so you can understand a little bit more of my process. I like to go through the Jungle Scout web app. It's so powerful. I love the filters. And then I get into Amazon and actually look at a bit more of the specifics because I want to know what it's going to take to get me up to the high spots, what it's going to take to sell. For instance, on this page, a little over 10 sales a day. Wow, these guys are killing it. 90 sales a day, over 30, over about 80 sales a day, about 60 sales a day. There's money happening here. But look at these prices. So again, there's going to be some of the variation things, but $8, $11, $20, not 20, 12. I'm sorry, guys. I am dyslexic, so that's probably not helping too terribly much. But you can see that all of these products, and they're more or less the exact same, and that's going to make it very challenging to compete. There are a lot of people selling these. There's 76,000 results for resistance band. I know some people say that's not that important, but it kind of is in thinking about how many other people there are out there that you're going to have to beat. It's not that hard to beat them if you listen to FBA All-Stars, you listen to The Amazing Seller, you've gone through some of the good Amazon training. Scott's course is pretty goddamn good, actually. FBAAllstars.com/classroom. Grab that it's a free kind of deal. And get in. But basically learning what you need to look for is the most important thing. Product selection is where your success is made or not made. That was a terrible way to preface that. But basically, if you're not selling something that's selling, then you're not selling. And yes, that was a roundabout way of saying you need to do a great job picking your products. I looked into this. I looked into some of this stuff. The numbers make sense because, well, it's a really easy product to make, so the unit costs aren't that high. But there's lots of people selling them. There's lots of competition. So these are all things that you have to consider. We've covered a couple of different product types, and hopefully that's been helpful, kind of looking at this sports and outdoors category. There's plenty of other categories. As you can see, we haven't even gone through 200 products. We've gone pretty far. We've gone a little bit more in depth than I normally would just to break down basic products. But that's because I'm typically looking for my brand. But look at all of the stuff that you can look in. Sports and outdoors, toys and games, shoes, maybe. Pet supplies, yeah. Patio, lawn and garden, yeah. Office products, maybe. Musical instruments, that sounds tough. Music, no. Kitchen and dining, yes. Jewelry, yes. Especially if you got approved. Amazon had a little error where anyone that applied to jewelry or clothing and a couple other categories, they got instantly approved without having to go through any of the requirements. Industrial and scientific, maybe. Home improvement, yes. Home and kitchen, hell yes. Health and personal care, hell yes. Grocery, maybe. Electronics, typically tough, but you can make a lot of money. Computer and accessories, same deal. Clothing, depends on the sizes, on the colors, etc. Cell phones and accessories, hell yes. Camera and photo, hell yes. Beauty, baby, hell yes. Automotive, maybe. Arts and crafts, probably. Appliances, I don't really know. So that's a little breakdown. Here's what we've gone through. Hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. We have sourced a couple different, we've selected a couple of different products. And again, this is just a selection. You need to make sure that you go through Alibaba, you check some of the pricing, make sure that this stuff makes sense. Do a little bit more deep digging and research. Can you get the products? What's the margins going to look like? What's it going to look like with a more in-depth competition look than we did? You're going to want to be looking into some of these listings, seeing what they look like, seeing if this is something that's really optimized. It's real booty bands. Okay, that's interesting. So is this exercise for your butt? Well, there's the treasure in the booty, so to speak. So here's the product description. They've got some stuff written out. So they've clearly put a bit of effort into this, but there's also only 5 pictures, so you can definitely do better than that. I also really don't like the colors of these bands, and they're different in some of these pictures. Maybe they can address that later. Either way, but there's some things that can be improved. At the same time, it's not terrible. They've done an okay job, especially for a $12 price point. So think about some of those things, and then think about some of what we've seen. Maybe you can add variations. You can add changes to it. So maybe we want to make the booty bands that also annihilate the arms, or we want to add in more resistance styles. We want to add in a jump rope, or maybe one of those little yoga balls we saw earlier, yoga mats, things along those lines, combining things that are selling and things that make sense to make bundles that would work well. So those are the thoughts. I guess it's time to wrap this up. Hopefully this has been helpful because this is FBA All-Stars. We waste your time building Amazon businesses. Until next time, maybe we'll make another video. Probably we won't. But I was bored, and hopefully this has been relatively helpful for you. And again, check out anything that you need. I'll try to make some show notes at FBAAllStars.com/selection. We'll call this selection, and we can go through some of this stuff. I'll link to the episode with Greg Mercer where we talk a little bit more on product selection. I'll link to the discounts for Jungle Scout, which I would grab personally if you don't have it. And if you already do, you're in business. You know what you're doing. And then until next time, just go kick some freaking ass, guys. It's almost the holidays. It's Q4. That means